Now, when I go and meet a footballer, I'm actually not starstruck or anything because I'm like business first. And then once I've actually done the shoot, then I'm like, we just filmed with Declan Rice. Do you know what I mean? Then I look at the photos, I'm like, that just happened. You're going for a meeting with like head of PR at Adidas UK, and I'm like 14, 15, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why are they even trusting me? But they're talking to you like an adult, and they're talking to you like you're a business professional. I was getting ridiculed so much, and I didn't really have the best like self-confidence at that point anyway. And I remember going onto my YouTube channel and just hovering over the delete button.
Your most incredible experience like doing this job, what comes to mind as I ask that?
FIFA World Cup 2022, because the Qatar World Cup had so much media around it, we didn't really know what to expect, and then we got there and it was just, there's so much you're thinking of. I'll be honest, I get crazy anxiety walking to the stadiums. It might not come across like that because it all comes across as really wholesome and really fun, but I get crazy anxiety walking there.
Guys, today's episode is one of my favourite of all times. Have you ever wondered what it takes to become a content creator? And not just any type of content creator, a content creator in the football space. Today's guest has worked with Harry Kane, he's worked with Jude Bellingham, he's worked with Kevin De Bruyne, the who's who, and today he shares his journey to get to that point. This is one you do not want to miss. Introducing Ewan, also known as EABSkills. Guys, enjoy the show. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of What My Best Friend Does, where we talk to best friends in the hope of inspiring you to take immediate action to find the career of your dreams. Today, we've got a special episode. I'm joined by my best friend, the football content creator, Ewan, also known as EABSkills.
Yes,
Ewan,
yes sir.
Great to see you, bro.
Yes, you too, mate. Thanks for having me.
First and foremost, we've got to start with, bro, what does EABSkills stand for,
Great
bro?
question. It's a great question. So my first name is Ewan, obviously E. My last name begins with B.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people think the A means my middle name. My middle name is James.
Oh, okay.
So that throws it out the way. My brother's name is Alex. So when I first started creating videos, not even EABSkills, I made EAB Vids with a joint account with my brother. So then I made EABSkills as like a subsidiary to EAB Vids as the football channel.
Yeah.
And then that's where it's like, I just took ownership of it. And, but my brother was never involved in EABSkills. It was just like I just kept the name type of thing. So there's your trivia.
There you go. You heard it here first. That's what it is.
Exactly.
So the A stands for Alex.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I love it. So yeah, you're obviously a football content creator. Typically, I'm like to people, what did you want to be growing up? Is this always what you've wanted to do? Take us on your journey. Like, how is it one becomes a football content creator?
Yeah, absolutely. So like everyone, when you're a child, you want to be a footballer. You know, a certain generation, especially early 2000s, it was like football was I think for me, it was at its peak. Everyone wanted to be a striker or whatever it is. So always wanted to be a footballer. I discovered football skills quite early on. So I used to go to Brazilian soccer school.
Did you?
Yes.
In the UK?
In the UK. Big up Brazilian soccer school because they are brilliant.
Is that what it was actually called?
Brazilian soccer school.
Not like run R10 Academy?
No, it was actually just Brazilian soccer schools.
Okay.
I think it's schools or school.
Okay.
Still exists, massive thing. So my mom used to take me to that. It was like every Tuesday or something. And that's really where I just kind of fell in love with the skills side of the game. But I was never really skillful in the games. I just liked to do this on a Tuesday. And, you know, we used to learn like the Maradona 7 and the R9 roulette and the La Croqueta at the time. You know, all those big guys who were, you know, just pioneers of skills. Yeah. Then Ronaldinho came into the question and I started to see Nike adverts when I was a little bit younger and I remember being a big fan of Kaka. So these kind of like heritage skill players, really kind of got me interested in skills. And then I played football up until, you know, I was 14, 15-ish. And then around 2013, I started EABSkills, which is my brand now. Yeah. Just basically as a relief from my GCSEs. I hated doing my GCSEs and whatever it was. So I used to come back after school, go in the garden, and my release was like just kicking a football about and just trying to learn a new skill every day. Okay. So it started with obviously, I was all right at kick-ups, but developing the kick-up technique. And then into the around the world. I still remember the first around the world, like everyone, you do your first around the world. I still remember that. And then it just kind of grew from there. And at that time, 2013, I mean, that wasn't ever thinking about a career. I mean, I was 14, you know, it wasn't ever thinking this is going to be whatever. I think you had like Syndicate and you had KSI and Ali A, these type of pioneer creators in the UK who you started to see were kind of making a living from YouTube. But that wasn't anything I was thinking. I just wanted to show off to my friends at school. I was posting these videos on Facebook and whatever in 240p, and it was terrible quality. And yeah, I mean, honestly, for like the couple of years from maybe 2013 to 15, I then went to college and was just doing my A levels, and this was always just like fun. But then I started to get, you know, products sent from Adidas. I remember getting my first pair of boots from Adidas in the summer of 2014, and I just left school. And when you get a pair of boots from Adidas, you feel like, you know what I mean? I feel like the guy. And I wanted to post all this content with them. And, you know, I used to get, not bullied, but I used to get the mick took out of me a little bit at school for like being the guy who created videos, and you know what I mean? It was such a weird thing to do. Now everyone's on TikTok, right? But at that point, it's so weird. Oh God, he does YouTube. That's strange. Then I got that first pair of boots, and changed slightly.
They think you're crazy. And then like you're a visionary, right?
Pretty much.
So,
yeah.
Like,
so
I was just gonna like jump in there.
Sure.
Like, yeah, people are kind of teasing you. Like, what is that doing, like, to your mental? At any point, do you think, all right, maybe, like, I should just stop, save myself the embarrassment? Like, what's going through your mind?
Yeah, I remember I was getting ridiculed so much, and I didn't really have the best, like, self-confidence at that point anyway. Yeah. And I remember going onto my YouTube channel and just hovering over the delete button. I'm not joking. I hovered over it for, like, a minute.
Yeah.
And I was, like, evaluating it in my head. I don't know why I didn't decide to do it. I'd put the laptop down, did whatever. And then kind of from that point, I just kept creating, and it just kept getting bigger, I guess. And the ridicule kind of stopped. And look, when people, I get it, you know, when people are 14, 15, it's a weird time for everyone. Everyone's a bit insecure. Everyone, you know, wants to be part of a group, and they want to be on the right side of what people are perceiving is good or whatever. So those guys, I have no, you know, disdain, because it's like, I get it. But at the same time, I mean, it wasn't great, but I'm obviously thankful I, you know, managed to push through.
So many questions off the back of that. Like my first one is, you started in 2013, 2014. You mentioned the fact that you're after school every day. Like, how many hours does it take to like get the shot, learn the skill? And are you like recording it and uploading it and editing the videos? Are you just firing it out like raw? Yeah, like just talk me through the process in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll talk about the editing first. I used to use Windows Movie Maker, like a lot of people at that time. I actually used to like making, this is bizarre, but I used to like making Lego stop frame animations. Okay. Completely off topic, but that's where I learned how to use like Movie Maker. Okay. So I used to like take photos of the Lego guys and then move them slightly, like, you know, like Wallace and Gromit, that type of thing. I was just so fascinated in like cameras and that type of stuff. So that's where I kind of honed the Movie Maker skills, which is very basic. And then I used to, just upload the footage into it. But I was still using a camera at that point, which had like physical batteries. That's kind of how far we've gone now. But yeah, I mean, from the skills point of view, that is, I never really know how to answer that question, because it's like, if you don't see something as a chore, then it doesn't feel like you're practicing. Okay. So I just loved kicking a ball, and I just loved seeing how high I could throw it and control it. And that kind of inadvertently, I was practicing, but I didn't really feel like I was practicing. But at the same time, I wanted to learn a certain amount of skills. I wanted to learn the around the world. I wanted to learn the Neymar touch or whatever it was. So there was goals, but I wasn't really focusing on, I've got to get this today or this today. It just kind of came naturally, and you just keep adding little bits, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do get what you mean. And then like with everything that you're learning, and like you said, you get your first pair of boots from Adidas. Yeah. What is like the tipping point? Because you mentioned the fact that you start at 14 years old, right? You don't know that it's a viable career. Yeah. Like, is there like a clear moment in your journey where you're like, oh my God, like I could do this full time? And could you share?
Again, it's such an interesting one, because it's not like now where it is, you have people to look up to and be like, oh, there's a path there. It was still always kind of like an afterthought to me that I would go to college, I would do my A-levels, I would do something in media, film, photography, and then this would kind of propel me and be like an added bit for my CV to then go into a conventional job. I didn't ever see it as like, oh, it's going to be where it is now. And I think that's the beauty of how I've managed to do it and how I've managed to stay in the game for so long.
And not get burnt out.
Yeah, because so many people now jump into it because they see it as a career like anything.
Yeah.
But when something's a hobby, you're going to do it regardless. I would do this regardless whether I was being paid or not, because this is my hobby. And, you know, I've luckily been able to turn that into a full-time job. But I think a moment, I would guess, when, you know, you get invited to London. I mean, I'm from Wolverhampton, we're in London now, but when you get invited to London at 14, 15 to go to like a Pro Direct event, or, you know, you're going for a meeting with like the head of PR at Adidas UK. And I'm like 14, 15. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why are they even trusting me? But they're talking to you like an adult, and they're talking to you like you're a business professional. I was just learning on the job, and I was trying to, you know, navigate through like puberty and like the, you know, what happens at 13, 14, 15, 16, but then also like trying to run a business, which I didn't realize was a business, trying to do my A-levels and schoolwork, and then try and, I guess, have a life as well. So it all just kind of like went into one. But I think it was like when I started getting invited to events, and I was thinking, there's a career path here, but maybe it's like from more of the media side, not from an influencer side. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. A couple of things off the back of that. Like, you mentioned the fact that you're going to school, right? Like, did you have another passion? Like, what in your head, you mentioned there, like, oh, I might have got into media. Like, if you weren't doing this and it was your hobby, what do you think you would have ended up doing?
I really don't know, because I was like all in on it. It was like all in or nothing. I was really going by the Adidas slogan. Luckily, I had like really supportive parents, and, you know, they've, again, shout out, because they've given me the opportunity to be like, look, you know, take the time to really find something that you want to do, and this is working. It might not be bringing in you know, money at the moment, but you're a hard worker. You can see the vision. We can see, you know, what you want to do. You know, so don't worry, we've got your back. That was really, really, you know, comforting, and I'm lucky that I was in that position, because I know a lot of people who unfortunately aren't, and they get pushed into like a conventional route, and that's it. So I'd say that as well, massively.
So, and just like talking about your parents there, like you mentioned the fact that you're getting invited to, you know, to meet the Pro Direct head at 14, 15. Is it your parents who are coming with you, or are you like literally going into these meetings on your own as a 14 or 15-year-old?
Yeah, this is a really interesting one, because I look back at it now and I'm like, I can't believe I used to do that.
Oh my God.
But,
what?
But the reason why, because we had like there was a solid 3 group of us. It wasn't just me. There was me, there was Kieran Brown, my friend, and then Dan Moore, who was my other friend. And we used to get invited. We were in the same area, and we all met each other doing, you know, football skills online, and we all got invited at the same time. So like our parents kind of like came together almost, sent us off. Like, you know, we all came to the train station. It was like, we were fully prepared, you know, it was all whatever. And then we were normally kind of like meeting someone like a chaperone as well, like at the other side, and Adidas would provide things like that, or like Pro Direct Soccer would, you know, they'd really look after you, because they do know like you're that age. So like every precaution was made, but it was, that also really made me develop quite quick, because I was like learning how to talk in a business language to these people, but also I was traveling all over the country at that age. And I think that's allowed me to almost mature quickly from a business point of view. Because I look back at now, and I look at like 14-year-olds now, and I'm like, I can't believe that 14-year-olds now would kind of do that. I look at certain people, I'm like, I can't believe it. And there's also certain people who are more mature-headed, and I think I was just one of those people, really.
And it helps the fact that you had the other 2 people that
absolutely
were with you,
yeah. So we used to just,
So like, obviously knowing you, like you're massive on TikTok, massive on Instagram, massive on YouTube. Has it been like a steady ascent with regards to your followers, or was there like specific points in time where you've just had posts go absolutely berserk and it led to a surge in your followers?
It's definitely just been slow and steady, to be honest. I try not to even look at followers or following nowadays. I just try and focus on the engagement of the content specifically, and also the following that you do have, not opposed to the following that you might have in the future.
Yeah, I love that.
So I think really focusing on that is super important. I think the day and age that we're in now, everyone is a content creator. Numbers almost are becoming a little bit inflated because there's so many people on the platforms that a certain amount of followers now is kind of like, well, whatever. If they're not engaged, or they're not, an actual audience that you can sit and talk to and share stuff like this with, then what's the point? So I always try and focus on the quality of the content and making stuff for those guys who are there, if you know what I mean.
No, I do. And on that, talk to me about how your content has evolved. And the reason I ask that is because you obviously started off with all of the crazy skills.
Yeah.
But especially when I look at your TikTok now, it's a lot of stadium stuff, a lot of interaction with crowd engagements, working with footballers. Yeah. Talk to me about the evolution of your content.
The crazy football skills, I think, are really cool, and they serve a purpose for a certain audience. Like my Instagram, I think that's a really great audience for that. But then my TikTok, I wanted to try something a bit new, and I think that's the only reason why I'm still kind of like where I'm at now, and I still feel like there's so much more, because I've constantly kept evolving my stuff.
Yeah.
You see so many people, and this isn't a bad thing, but they just stick with one thing, and then they wonder why, maybe the audience has dropped off a little bit. But it's like you've got to, slightly tweak every year. That's what I try and do, slightly tweak something every year, look at what's worked, look at what hasn't. So yeah, my wholesome stuff on TikTok now is like a massive part of what I do. Yeah. I'd say that's like almost 65% now crowd engagement, creating videos with the kids and stuff like that, and then the rest is like my football skills. But don't get me wrong, that's still my biggest passion, is like football skills and doing football freestyle performances. It's like a different level of a feeling,
And talking about that different level,
yeah.
If you had to think of the how do I say it? Your most incredible experience doing this job, what comes to mind as I ask that?
FIFA World Cup 2022.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was. I don't think. Well, I'm sure something might come up in the future that's as good, but from an experience, that was unbelievable. So we got invited out there to perform for 5 weeks for the whole thing in Qatar.
Wow.
And at the time, obviously, it was an interesting one because the Qatar World Cup had so much media around it. We didn't really know what to expect. And then we got there, and it was just the most incredible thing. We were performing at the different stadiums, the different fan zones, and just having a great time going to the games. And we were getting paid to do it. And I was like, I felt this is the most ridiculous thing ever. I was like, if the 14-year-old in me could see what I'm doing right now, it would just be, you wouldn't be able to believe it.
It was a dream.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I love the fact that you say that, because my next question is, that does sound dreamy, right? 2022 World Cup. Yeah. I wish I would have been there. I wasn't. I was watching it at home on my TV. But as a content creator, what is the actual reality? Because that dream isn't the everyday, right? I think coming back to what you were saying, people see it as a job, as a career, and they're putting out all of this content in the hope of making money. Can you give me, from your perspective, what the actual day-to-day is of being a content creator and having it as a full-time job?
Absolutely. It's very much however you want to do it. You can either work as a 9 to 5, it can work as a 9 till 11, it can work however you want to work.
Do the inputs equal the outputs? So what I mean by that is 9 to 5 versus 9 to 11, the 9 to 11 is going to do better because they're putting more time?
It is, but you burn out after a week. Okay. So there has to be an equilibrium between the work and also just taking time off your phone. Mm-hmm. That's the hardest thing, I feel, is the work-life balance element of what we do. So that I try and structure my day in a way that I'd be working in an office. So, I try and have a routine where I kind of get up at the same time, do all I need to do before I then jump onto my laptop and do my tasks for the day. So the tasks for the day could look like on a Monday. So for example, on a Monday, I have to schedule all my Snapchat spotlight content for the week.
Okay.
So that involves me downloading everything from my platforms over the last week, popping that into my Google Drive because everything has to be labeled. That's a job in itself. And then kind of repurposing that for my Snapchat. I also have a lad who kind of like works for me on the Snapchat as well. So he's scheduling stories during the week. So there's always 10 stories a day that go out. And then I supplement that with my content that I'm doing daily. So there's that part, which I always try and keep on a Monday. And then, you know, that might take a few hours. Then on the afternoon, it'll be like, right, we've got all the content from the weekend that we shot at, let's say, Wrexham or Leicester. We've got to start like getting that all labeled up and then edited. And then that just goes, that can go till whenever, you know, 5, 6, 7, whatever. And then I think about the gym. I've got to get in the gym. I've got to do my recovery, rehab, whatever it is. You know, sauna, actually keep myself fit as well, because you have to remember that I could be booked to do a freestyle show tomorrow. So I've got to keep ticking over alongside creating the content. So it's a lot, but it's a lot that's fueled by the passion. Yeah. So it doesn't really always feel like it is. But then I get to a point sometimes where I'm just so burnt out and I'm like, oh, it's hit me now. Yeah. But I just try and do everything at 110% and, you know, leave kind of nothing out there really.
I love it. And like with that, you know, you're technically like a freelancer, right? So if you get burnt out and you have to take time off work, that's no income, right? No. So like, does that have a play on like your mental and accepting jobs, or is it just you take care of yourself and like when your body says no, you just say no to opportunities, even if they are like great and attractive?
Yeah, and to be honest, that goes back to the point of like adapting over the last 12 years. So let's say 5 years ago, I'd have been screwed if I'd got a knee injury or a foot injury, because my whole income was based on doing freestyle performances, and my videos, they didn't make any money from the actual videos themselves. It was just, I'm doing freestyle performances and waiting for that to come into the inbox. So yeah, I'd have been screwed. That's why I've had to strategically implement what I'm doing now. So, you know, freestyle performances now, you know, they kind of look at like 10% of my income. The rest is, you know, from video views, from my ambassadorship with like Panini, things like that, which we can chat about if you want. Yeah. And then, you know, obviously creating this content outside the stadiums, that's bringing in a different audience. And then that audience is maybe a demographic that works well with other brands, and then other brands want to be involved. So it's just trying to have like a 360 approach to it all the time.
I love it. I do want to talk about Panini, but before we do, like hearing you there, like talk about the strategy and how you transformed. Yeah. It seems quite methodical. And when you think like it started as a hobby, it sounds like very structured now. Is it something that you've just learned over time, or do you have a team that support you and help you to strategize? Like, how is it that, like you've known how to take it from hobby into business?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very much a live and learn type of thing. You know, everything has pros and cons, you know, so you take stuff from every piece, if you know what I mean. Even things like the World Cup was amazing, but there was things there that I learned about myself that I needed to be better at. So for example, you know, I needed to be better at like pre-planning videos for trips, because I'd never run out of content, but I wanted fresher content at certain points during the World Cup, and we were obviously performing all the time and couldn't always get to a pitch. So trying to I then took that into the next year, and it was like, right, the next trip I do, I'm planning 4 weeks in advance, content smashed, you know what I mean? Yeah. So then I took that. But yeah, I mean, obviously have a great network. You know, I've got Hayden, who you've obviously, you know, interviewed before. Shout out Hayden. Who's genuinely like the best manager I think that I could ever wish for. It doesn't just look after the business side of things. It's like, yes, the mental health, the strategy, the planning, and they're as much or as less involved as you want them to be. So like, if I go to Hayden, look, I want to do this series. How do you think it should look? He'll, you know, jump on the phone or whatever it is, and then we can put a strategy plan together. Or Hayden, I want to work with this brand. Great, let's put creative debt together and let's work together on it. Or even something, look, Hayden, I'm not feeling it this week. Can we cancel our Monday chat and we'll maybe do it on a Wednesday? Yeah, no worries. Bell me straight away. All good. Should we have like a, do you want to chat or do you want space? That type of thing. So that's brilliant. And then also obviously having a great support system of like fellow content creators who, help you out from a filming point of view and idea generation point of view. And Also, like, these guys, we're in a very specific world, so they only know what you, how do I say it? There's only certain people who really understand you, and you have to really lean on those people as well.
I love that. So a couple of things I had there. You mentioned Hayden, and like he's obviously your manager.
Yeah.
Did you have a manager before him? And like to any content creators who are growing, considering like bringing a manager on board, how is it you went about finding your manager, or did they find you?
Yeah, so me and Hayden started working together around the World Cup time. So when I was at the World Cup, Hayden first approached me. So we were chatting away, and then I think in the January of the 2023, then we put an agreement in, and I signed with Hayden and Alpha Talent. But before that, I didn't realise that people actually go out and look for managers. I thought that was something that you would kind of get to a point, and then a manager would be like, I want to work with you. Yeah. So I was like completely clueless. You know what I mean? I didn't understand that. So, you know, when Hayden has then said to me, you know, that's kind of not always how it works. I was like, bizarre. Yeah. So I never had a manager.
Did everything yourself?
Yeah, I did everything myself for 10 years. And
wow.
Well, 10 years. And that was a blessing and a massive curse, because, you know, when I look back at it now, definitely got took advantage of in certain, you know, areas from brands who should probably know a little bit better. But it's on me, you know, I signed it off, whatever. There's certain things now that I also look back and I'm like, damn, I wish I had Hayden for that, because you know, he just speaks to businesses and to brands really well, and in a way that just takes the pressure off me. I can do what I want from a content point of view and just focus on that, and Hayden just kind of sorts out the rest. So yeah, there was pros and cons, but it's been a game changer having Hayden for sure.
And like on that, to the listener, to the aspiring content creator who is considering getting a talent manager, how has it been a game changer? Like, what specifically it's allowed you to focus on your content? Are there any other like key things that jump out at you with regards to the benefits of having a manager? Yeah,
I think it just puts you in circles you didn't ever think that you'd be in. So access to certain brands that I wouldn't have a clue how, you know, I would even go about chatting to them. The groundwork of trying to build a new relationship with a business, that sometimes takes 3 or 4 months of negotiations and chats and whatever it is. And when you're a content creator, your first and foremost thought is about creating the best content. So if you're slaving all day creating the content, and then it comes to like 5 o'clock and you're like, right now I want to jump on the emails and try and sort it out, those guys have already finished work. So then you're kind of chasing the tail straight away, and it's also just not possible. You just burn out. So I think my advice would be, get to a point where you feel like this is a necessity, that you need this, because not everyone works well with a manager. You know, I've seen examples where some people just like doing everything themselves and they want that control. So kind of first work out whether you need one, and then second work out what's your personality like. Are you going to kind of want to bring someone in and be 50-50 on things?
Okay.
From like a work
No, I get that. Yeah, I get that. But on that though, what I will say is, like, I think sometimes people might be apprehensive about getting managers because they're like, they're just going to like take a cut. Like for you, we don't need to know like earnings, but has it been a net benefit? So by having a manager, I, as a creator, am actually earning more.
Yeah, I've had the best 18 months of my life, with Hayden. So yeah, like astronomically changed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get a manager, and if it's Alpha Talent, give me 5%. Use code BIO5 for 5%. No, I'm joking. Where do I want to go next? This has been like such a sick conversation so far.
Yeah, for sure.
You mentioned the fact that like you have people, other creators who help you with idea generation, and they help you to film content. I want to like double click into that. Like, how do you come up with content ideas? Because even me, as like, I'm a creator, I guess, right, with this podcast, I just think sometimes like posting daily online, how do I keep it fresh and not sound the same? Like, what is your approach to creating content?
This is a really good question. This is something that I learnt from Mr. Beast. So what Mr. Beast does is he grabs a dictionary, flicks through the dictionary, lands on a random word, and then writes that word down on a piece of paper, and then basically auto-corrects in his head what comes after that word. So if it's like elephants, he writes it down, and then it's like, right, let me think about all the video ideas I could do around the word elephants. Or that's probably a terrible example, but like an adjective or something,
I get you.
So I tried to do that for a little while, and then I have like a little black book now of full of that stuff, because it's so interesting. If you just flick to a random word, suddenly the light bulb goes off and you're like, oh, I could do that. I could put that into football. I could do this into football. And that's a really, really good way that I find helps quite a lot. Then also you look at what's performed, not just from other people, but from yourself as well. What's performed well in the past? How can I just slightly tweak that to be not the same video, but a same narrative, but then with a slight, change at the end or whatever it is. So there's many different ways, but also just taking inspiration from daily life and from others that you see. It's not copying, it's just kind of like tweaking and just leveling it up each video. So I think there's 3 really good ways there. And also ChatGPT now is really interesting. So again, just for like word generation, I kind of use that. If it's like, if you type in give me a crazy football video idea, it's going to come up with 10 bizarre, ideas that aren't going to have legs, but there could be a word or a little bit in each one of those that you're like, oh, I could then mash that into something else. Yeah. So it's just kind of like also spending time, spend a day in the week just working on video ideas, because it will just pass you by if not. And that's your biggest thing, right?
I love that. And then when you have the like list of ideas, and then when it actually comes to shooting the content, I know like we spoke a little bit about it, but yeah, like how long does it take? And is it do you have to take multiple takes? Because when I'm seeing you outside the football stadiums and like you're with the kids, is that like one take, we get it? Like what is the actual reality? Like just to paint a picture for people who potentially want to get into
Absolutely. It. Look, working with children is difficult because they're children. Your biggest thought around those videos is, how can I make this the most watchable, clickable video? So trying to kind of get that across to the kids is sometimes a little bit difficult. And I'm a one-man band at the stadiums a lot of the time. So I'm thinking about, are my mics set up? Are they working? Is the kid mic'd? Have I got the props? Have I got the prize? Is my camera working fine? Is it out of focus? So there's so much you're thinking of. I'll be honest, I get crazy anxiety walking to the stadiums. It might not come across like that because it all comes across as really wholesome and really fun, but I get crazy anxiety walking there because I know that you have one shot at a lot of this stuff. Sometimes I've spent £200-400 on a prize to give away, and I know I've got one shot to give away that prize. I know I've got to find the perfect kid who's going to be appreciative and have a great reaction, because that's what people want to see, is the reaction of the kid and be like, wow, thank you so much. That's the power shot. So you're kind of like thinking about all this stuff in your head, and then the best bit is once you're finished, once you've done all the shots and the kids are going into the stadium and you're going home or whatever, you're going in, and you're just like that, and you're like, I can relax now, because there's so much to think about. I've kind of forgot what the original question was, but
Well, I need to think what the original question was.
Sure, yeah.
No, it was just like, so when you're filming like outside stadiums,
yes,
do you get it in one shot? Was the question, or because like I know you said like sometimes you don't, right? But like, especially with kids, how is it that they could be enthusiastic multiple times? It must be so difficult.
This is the thing. I never actually say to the kids, can you react in this way? I normally say, look, there's a really cool prize coming up if you get this, wink wink, you know. So sometimes, I'm not saying my videos are fake, but sometimes I really want a certain kid to win, and I'm going to give him every opportunity to win. I might not give him the answer, but I'm going to be like, you know, or to the dad, I really want them to win, because you just get a feel sometimes, a child who's super grateful and they're with their granddad or something, and you're going to make their day.
That perfectly answers the question. And like also on that, like you mentioned the fact that you can see those kids who like you really want to win. Are there subjects, shall we say, who you're just like, nah, like stay clear of, that you'd advise? Like, are there people who they're just trying to do something dumb to like be in the shot? Are there things, basically, are there any red flags to look out for when you're looking for people to film content with?
I think that's a really good question. So I announce before the games where I'm going to be, and I'm going to be, let's say I'm going to be at Kenilworth Road next Monday for the Luton versus Burnley game, 6:15 p.m. I'm going to be in this spot. So luckily for me, I've managed to build now to a point where, there's normally 3 or 4 or 5 people waiting. At Wolves, it's like 50 people waiting, which is ridiculous. So I know those kids are going to be fine and they're going to be, but if I was doing it from like a completely new perspective, which I obviously did at one point, I always used to look for like the granddad and the kid, or, the nice little family, or because that's, I think that for me is what football's about. I want to give that family an extra element on a match day. Football's expensive, man. If I can, give their children a little bit extra as well, and they might go home and be like, oh wow, that was an added extra. So I do try and look for the kind of a family, or a really a grateful child, really.
And you spoke about being anxious. Like, I've with this podcast, I thought about like doing street interviews.
Okay.
And I bought all the equipment. I still haven't gone yet, but watch this space. Street interviews coming near you. Go. Like, before you had the following, or maybe you've always had the following. How does one just go up to people and be like, "Hey, do you want to film content?" Like, is it as daunting as it still is?
It still is. But I was saying this in a conversation I had earlier today. I said, at the moment, I am doing this content tour where I'm going around the different stadiums. And a couple of weeks ago, one of the days was at Luton. So Luton for me is a 2.5 hour drive. So I specifically just drove from my house to the Luton Stadium, and I had like a 45-minute window where I had to go and had to get the videos, or it's a waste of my day and whatever it is, waste of petrol, everything. So that's really put me out the comfort zone, is actually driving to a place specifically and knowing that I have to do this, or it's you either do it or you don't.
Sink or swim.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? I have to like, all right, here we go. Mic up and then just go for it. But once you get the first one out of the way, it opens the floodgates. Then everyone wants to. It's also, someone sees someone getting interviewed and they kind of like, what's going on? And they want to get involved. So it just makes it a little bit easier.
So it's all about getting that first one.
It's always about the first one.
Because once you get the first one, it's funny what you said there. Like, I've had a previous guest on, and the way he said it is like, you'll be so surprised at what you can achieve when you have no other option.
Absolutely.
So to your point, like,
absolutely,
you've got the 45 minutes, you have no other option. You're gonna mic up and go and get the content.
Mate, on the other side of fear is always success, isn't it? So whether it's not success from like a KPI of views, the success is you've done all you can. That's how I look at it. And
you mentioned the content tour there. Yeah, like, can you talk to us a little bit about like, what's your favorite thing to do with regards to creating content, right? Because you've got the stadium stuff, you've got the stuff you do with other footballers, you've got the World Cup. Can you like talk a bit about like the different bits of content you film?
I absolutely love. So we did a piece with Panini recently with Declan Rice, and that was, I met Declan Rice and I said, look, right, Declan, I've got one of your viral skills here. If I can recreate this skill in 3 attempts, would you be able to sign one of your cards and I'll go and give it to a child at Wembley? He was like, yeah, let's do it. So we did a great video around that. And that was mixing in the elements of my skills and the wholesome stuff given out to a child, working with footballers. That's the epitome for me of what I want to do, is kind of putting all that into one. I want to be known as the guy who's really good at football skills, but who can make this really wholesome, creative content, and then also have the privilege of working with footballers, but also the respect of working with footballers, because that you do gain that respect. And, once they see that you are serious about what you're trying to do, they kind of open up and relax a little bit.
And like, what is it actually like working with footballers? Because everybody, it sounds like a dream. Is it as good as it sounds? Or are there like people who you're just like, I don't even know if this is worth the peas? Like,
it's always worth it. Look, it's every person is different, right? So every footballer is different. You get some who are really, really, kind of, they get it. They understand what TikTok is. Normally the younger ones, you kind of 20, 21, 22, they understand it and they know what they need to do. If you're working with, say, like an older player, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult, but they always seem to open up, towards the end of the shoot, and then you kind of, in the swing of things. Yeah. So to be honest, it's a mixed bag. Footballers are in an incredible position that they don't, I guess, have to do this stuff. They're legally contracted to do it a lot of the time with different brands, but it's still like, sometimes. So it's just a mixed bag. I've never really had a bad experience, I'll be honest. I'd say one of the most interesting experiences I had was Marouane Fellaini back in the day when he played for Manchester United. I did a shoot with him, and I think I was maybe like 15, 16, and I was trusted to do it. Along with a couple of other creators, and he could kind of tell that this was like one of our first times working with a pro. So he could have been like, but he wanted to help us, and he wanted to do the best on camera, and I think that really, really helps. So now when I go and meet a footballer, I'm actually not starstruck or anything, because I'm like business first, and then once I've actually done the shoot, then I'm like, we just filmed with Declan Rice. Do you know what I mean? Then I look at the photos, I'm like, that just happened. But when you're in the moment, you're not thinking about that.
I hear that. And talking about that, like being professional in the moment, what's the etiquette, right? Because I'm sure there are creators who have maybe had opportunities, and then maybe they've been really unprofessional and they've not been invited back. To make sure people don't make any faux pas, like, are you able to take pictures with the footballers? Like, how is it you're supposed to actually act on a shoot?
Look, you've got to get a feel straight away for what the vibe is. Some shoots are super strict and they're to the T. I did a body double for Kevin De Bruyne about 4 years ago, and that was a big advert for Sky Sports, big festive advert, and that was one where I wouldn't have just gone up to Kevin straight away and gone, "Oh, you're okay, Kevin, I'm Ewan, and football freestyler," because that was more, he had to do X, Y, Z, and then maybe there was a feeling at the end that we kind of bonded almost, and then can I grab a photo? Is that okay? Once everything's done, the photo's always at the end. The chat is always at the end. You do the media duties first because that's what you're paid to do. Yeah. And then, if there's a feeling that, there's a mutual likeness for each other, you might, do you mind grabbing a photo? Or could you sign a couple of cards for me to give away? So it's all very individual, but there's definitely an etiquette of, you're meeting a footballer, but you're on job, crack on, do what you need to do, and then kind of, see what the vibe is.
I love it. You're a freestyle footballer. Which footballer have you seen produce like the most insane skill?
Paul Pogba was very good.
Was he?
Yeah, I mean, obviously at the moment, it's a shame what's happened. Paul Pogba's very, very good at skills. There's definitely some others. I would say like Phil Foden now, he's brilliant. He's so techie. But who else? I mean, look, like Neymar.
You seen him?
I'm trying to think. I think I've been in an event where he's the best thing I ever saw was the Brazilian Ronaldo. So when I was a kid, that was my favorite. He was my favorite ever player, and I just think again, without the injuries, he would have gone on to be the.
I mean, he's still one of the top.
Exactly.
Top 5, yeah.
But it's just such a shame.
Yeah.
So I remember being at a Nike event, and it was like the weirdest crowd. So I was like chatting with Virgil Abloh, rest in peace, absolute pioneer. Chicken shop date guy. Do you remember him?
The chicken connoisseur.
Check my crep. Him. Geezer, absolute legend. And then it was like the Brazilian Ronaldo, Harry Kane. So it was just such a bizarre group of people. But I remember looking at the Brazilian Ronaldo, I was like, I'm so in awe of this guy, El Phenomenon.
Yeah.
So, but I think he had really good skills. Roberto Carlos, these type of players. But yeah, I think Foden at the moment is like techiest.
I love it. Like you've mentioned like so many footballers there. Like you've mentioned Pogba, you've mentioned Foden, you've mentioned Kane, you've mentioned R9. I think, just bringing it back to the fact that, people, the business, I suppose, of being a creator.
Sure.
How is it you go about sourcing clients? Obviously, you've got your talent manager now, but when you were starting up and in those 9 years where it was all you, was it like you were outbounding, or was it like direct emails to yourself? You mentioned Adidas sending you free stuff. How is it you even put your details out there so they know to reach you?
I remember when I first started, it was a lot of outbounding for just free product, because I was 14, 15, I didn't have any money. I needed, I was so just in awe of like getting a little mini goal that I could, then go and make so many videos with. That was the type of outbound I was trying to get, like in exchange for something for my videos. So they were never really paid. It was like, I'd love a little goal.
And is that an email to someone? Is it?
Yeah,
like
that was just, mate, that was just hustle of like LinkedIn and like trying to like Google who's the guy, or, we used to have like a nice little group of creators who we'd all share and help each other out. Has anyone got a contact that I could potentially, lean on? And that's really nice because those guys I'm still really close with today, and those are the guys like my OGs because those guys were in it when there was no cash or it wasn't a business or whatever it was. So those guys I know are still in it for the same purposes, and those are my trusted people that I know that I can speak to because again they'd be doing it regardless whether we were making it as a business or whatever. So yeah, it was just a lot of outbounding for that kind of first 6 months of just trying to get product. And then I think when you get your first one land in the inbox and you're like, would you like to go and do, I remember the first one I did was with Nike. Nike emailed me. I don't even know how, but you get onto like a mailing list of them sending you free product. So I don't know how. It's normally like through an agency spots you and then they're working with Nike, and then there's then suddenly a direct link to Nike, and then Nike inbounded me and said, look, we want you to come and do an interview with Jack Butland at Wembley. I'd never been to Wembley before. I mean, I'd never worked with a professional footballer before, and they wanted me to do 10 questions with Jack Butland sat at Wembley. And I remember they were talking in the most like media jargon way about like, this needs to be approved by his manager. Can you reference this, this and this? And I'm like sat there like, why are they even, you know what I mean? Who am I at this point? Yeah. So I remember being really nervous, but once that one is done and you prepare so much, and I think my element with that was just do the best you can. And if it's good and people want to do more with you, great. If not, okay, but you've had the opportunity. So I've just had to just keep preparing, and because I didn't think there was ever going to be another chance or another opportunity, but luckily they did kind of keep coming in. Yeah.
And as you say that, like, when you're filming with Jack Butland, obviously not the Sky example, but are you editing all your own videos, or is it going to like a professional team at this point?
No.
Are you in charge of like the final product when you're working with clients?
Yeah, and you send it back to them, and they say this is great, or this needs changing slightly, or can you take out this? And it's just a constant evolution of that. And YouTube was my biggest thing because I learned everything on YouTube. How, if I had a problem like how do I do an overlay on Final Cut, or how do I do this on Final Cut, or whatever, YouTube straight away. And I used to just then learn everything through that. So it's always been like a one-man band up until a couple of years ago with Hayden, and then I've then realised that I wish I had Hayden a bit sooner.
So you're not editing your own videos now?
No, I am.
You are?
I am, yeah.
So basically, what I heard is, like, if your knees completely go, you can be a full-time video editor.
Well, yeah,
you've got the skills.
Because we've got so many translatable skills that you've learned. You've learned how to speak to people in a business point of view. You've learned how to write emails. You've learned how to decipher briefs. You've learned how to do the skills, how to film, how to edit. So you've got so many different qualities that I'm still very much, I'm one of these people that I know this is one of my faults. I need to let go a little bit of the editing and I need to outsource basically a lot of the times. I've got too much content and I need to post more, but I just don't think anyone can do
as good as you.
Justice. And I just think, and that's no hate to any editors that I use because they're all great, by the way. But I just think that there's just something there that when it's your own piece of content, I don't want to be that guy who keeps going back to them, can you change this slight little bit? I've got the respect for that person to be like, they've got way better use of their time. So I just try and keep it all. And then that's not helping me, if you know what I mean.
What I will say with regards to that is, not to say that I know what they do with their time, but it's literally their job.
Of course.
So like revisions are part of the game. Like when you're editing content, how long does it typically take you? And what are you using now? You mentioned what you used at the start. What softwares are you using now?
Mate, I'm using CapCut so much now.
Okay, so just phone.
It's so crazy because it went from Movie Maker back in the day, and then like to Final Cut Pro / Sony Vegas on PC, and then because that was at a time when I was still using like a proper camera for everything, so you'd have to then upload it to the computer, and it was just long. And then like obviously during the 2020 boom of TikTok, the CapCut thing came out, and now I think it's great because it's so accessible for everyone. Everyone can learn how to edit and shoot and point and shoot and stuff, and CapCut's brilliant. I just love throwing my stuff in there, editing that on a desktop as well. Auto captions are brilliant. Everything's so easy. But then like the longer form YouTube videos, I'm still editing myself on like a Final Cut or something like that. So more reactive stuff, short form, CapCut, bigger stuff, Final Cut.
And how long does it take to edit like a longer video? Because I know CapCut, you're probably like a pro now. You could bosh it out quickly.
A YouTube video, because a YouTube obviously you want to be looking at over 8 minutes these days, etc., etc. So I think there's like a formula now. I mean, that can take me anywhere from a couple of days to a couple of weeks to really get something like. I don't like to just work on something solidly for like 2 days. I like to just have a do a bit here, bit here, bit here, because I see different things in the video that over the couple of weeks, as opposed to just being so zoomed in on it, and I'm like, I missed something. Then when I watch it back, I'm like, oh, I could have maybe tweaked that. So that's what I try and do.
I love it. And you know, whilst we're talking about like your YouTube and stuff, you know, for the listener again, like I've been devouring content on like thumbnails and like titles and optimization in the years that you've been doing this. Like, what are your learnings and advice for people with regards to thumbnails and titles to, you know, give that extra bit of juice and chance of, you know, blowing up?
I'm probably not the best person for this, because I do struggle a little bit with that, because I know what I need to do sometimes, but I don't always do it. I try my best, but then I also, when I finish the video, I just want to get it out, and I'm like, oh, I should probably wait a couple of days and get a proper thumbnail designed on Fiverr or something. But I always just want to, because that goes back to like why I do this. Like I just want to share what I create, and it kind of goes back to the kid in me of just like, oh, I'm so excited to post this.
You're not trying to optimize, you're just doing it.
But I need to get better at that. Look, as I've got, for the many positives, I've got a lot of flaws that I still need to work on. And I think you have to be a constant student in the game with what we do. So I'm probably not the best person to answer that.
I love the honesty.
Yeah.
Talking about like moving on now, and you know, going back to talking about like the content creation industry as a whole. Like you said something earlier, and I was like, I'm going to bookmark that and come back to it. You were like, there were brands when I was younger who probably took advantage of me at the time, now looking back. And I know like online, you know, there are these things about, like, you know, there's like a dark underbelly to the industry. Can you, shed more of a light around what the industry is actually like, and your experiences like with these bad actors, and potentially how you can steer people away? Yeah,
I kind of look back at stuff and I'm like, nobody was ever like, I'm not saying anybody was ever mean or anything. It's more from a fact that I look back now and I was like, definitely undercharging massively. And I just would have loved someone at the brand to go, you're worth maybe a little bit more than that. Can we give you, to kind of work with, you know, to work with a 14, 15-year-old when I don't really have the business mind, or also the confidence to go back and say, oh, can I actually get, you know, a little bit more for this? Because you're also at that point when you're starting out, you don't want to lose the job.
So you're scared.
So you
scared
take, you know what I mean? You maybe throw a number and they go, oh, but can you do it for this? And you're like, oh yeah. Because you know, so I just wish that we were in a society maybe where, I don't know if it's like that now or if it's changed, that let's try and work together. And if you think someone's worthy of something, maybe just help them out a little bit, especially at an age like that, you know.
Can I just say, it's not just content creation.
Because
like for me, I work in tech, and I'll never forget it. Like my first pay increase I got a few years later, like I saw the manager, and I was just like, that pay increase you gave me, like I wasn't actually happy with it at the time. And she was like, we had budget for double, but like you didn't fight for it, so we didn't give it to you. So it's not just a content, like a content space thing. I think it's just like a business standpoint, right? They want to be as profitable as possible. All right, so there's the monetary stuff. Is there anything else that people should be aware of, or like any misconceptions about the industry that come to mind?
Yeah, I think it's sort of just know your worth as well. You know, it's always great to get stuff for free, but the brands know what they're doing a lot of the time, especially with the younger creators, because like, I was the same. I got a free pair of Adidas boots, and I was like, wow. And I made like, you know, all these videos and a full length YouTube video and everything. And I kind of look back at stuff now and I'm like, oh, that was probably a lot of kind of free advertising, labor. You know. But I also was at a point where I was happy for that as well, because I was trying to get my name out there. So that's not like a dig. It's just like kind of, maybe if I was to do it again, I'd maybe just kind of like, just maybe get a little bit more advice and stuff from someone. I just wish I had like a Hayden at that level. You know what I mean?
And like, to somebody who's listening to this and maybe they're going through something else and they're like, how is it I understand how much value I'm worth? Is there, without a talent manager, is it just a case of talking to other creators and seeing what they get, or like reaching out to someone like yourself or somebody who's maybe been there, done it, to understand potentially what it is they can charge?
Yes, definitely reach out to other creators in your space. You know, don't be afraid to kind of almost form a little union, if you know what I mean. You know, if someone's going to charge this amount, you know, you base that amount as well. That's what we used to do, like as a little group. We used to kind of anytime someone got a job offer, they put it in the chat and be like, what do you guys think? So we'd kind of work as a little bit of a team, which I think is a real positive. But you also, with the way the world is now and the way content is now, everyone's just trying to make money. So I don't know if that could even still be I don't know if that's still a thing or not, because everyone's kind of looking for themselves, I think, a lot nowadays. So just speak to people you trust, but also, I guess, don't be afraid as well to lose that job if you think you are worth that, you know. But it's difficult, man. Yeah. We're all kids and we're just trying to make it.
But hey, find your value.
Yes,
yeah. And worst case scenario, I get a talent manager. If you want, get
it's a lot easier now to find one.
You've got loads of followers across platform. Does your content vary by platform? And like, from your perspective, like, which platform do you enjoy the most?
Great question. Yeah, it massively changes across all platforms, and that's something that I've strategically done as well, because I didn't want to just be an RSS feed for EABSkills across every single platform. I wanted every person who follows me on each account to have value in that account, because what's the point otherwise? If someone just watches your YouTube and they see the same thing on Instagram, then what's the point? So I do Snapchat, which is a massively younger audience, which requires different content. It requires more fun, more outlandish content. And that also requires, like I said, I've got Josh who helps me just post stories during the day. And that might be like little quizzes, or, you know, Harry Kane has scored this many goals for England now. How many do you think he's going to score before he retires? Things like that. My Instagram is a lot more grown up. And that's kind of, I feel, where my crazy skills still sit really nicely. And that is also, again, really strategic, because I like to have my Instagram as like a portfolio of things that I do. So like my home feed is just full of really cool stuff, and that acts as like something where brands see it and they're like, okay, maybe we want to work with him, because I can scroll through, I can see, oh, he's worked with a player there, oh, he's done an advertising campaign there, he knows, you know, he's done a lot of different things. And then my TikTok, like I said, is just purely now for my wholesome stadium, not just stadium, but wholesome kid content. So there's just something for everyone. And then my YouTube brings a lot of that together, but more in a full length version. So that takes elements from each of those things and puts that into full length videos for people to watch more, if you know what I mean.
And like, we don't need to talk about money. Yeah. But obviously you're posting on the different platforms. Are you like, which one is like the most lucrative?
Mate, TikTok, man. It really is. It's weird. Like, YouTube is obviously king. But for me personally, I focus on making minute-long plus videos on TikTok, which is what they want you to make, and they pay a really good CPM for that. So if you get like a minute-long video that has like 1 million views, you know, that's pretty good, you know. So that's what I try and focus on. So a lot of the content that I'm making outside the stadiums now, I'm thinking about that in my head straight away. I'm like, this has to be over a minute, but only really for the algorithm point of view, not because I want to try and make a load of money on it. It's more because TikTok will push that more, because they can make more money on it themselves with advertising. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. And also YouTube Shorts is a massive one as well. It's brilliant. Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, if you get like a couple of like consistent million view videos, you're already talking pretty decent. So I think that's a really undervalued one, really, from like a monetary point of view.
And on that, like, I've had content creators, I had like a content strategist on just the last episode. Is all your content organic, or is there some paid behind it? And like, what I'm trying to ask, if you do paid and then that helps you get to the million, does it almost pay for itself, or is it just all organic?
No, it doesn't work like that.
Okay.
I never do paid for my own stuff. I only do paid if it's been boosted through like a campaign with a brand. I only do, you know, like organic stuff. I have thought about that in the past, and then I kind of did a bit of research into it, and it was like, that would be a really, really good way of doing it, because it could just pay for itself and then boost. You'd almost be hacking the game.
Yeah.
But unfortunately,
it doesn't work. Okay. Good to know. Yeah, and this has been such a great conversation. Like, you sound like somebody who, is like really organized, really dedicated, really driven. Like, how do you stay so productive? Do you have any productivity hacks?
I think routine. I know it's such a basic one, but just having a routine. I'm actually out of routine at the moment because of all the different traveling and things like that, and you feel it. You feel like, you know, I've got to get this work done on the train. I've got to get this done as and when during the day. But I'm at my best when I'm at, you know, my gym routine is perfect, my eating routine is perfect, my sleep is perfect, and it's basic stuff. So I think that's the biggest productivity hack I can give is just have that routine and stick to it, because the routine becomes a habit. And like I said, on a Monday, I know I have to do these Snapchats. And if I don't do it, I'm like, well, my week's ruined already. Yeah. So put your hardest things on the Monday, because then the rest of the week seems to be a bit easier.
I love it. And just like kind of parallel to that, like the mental aspect of being a content creator. I know we've spoken about potentially being burnt out, but one thing I've seen in like my videos that have gone viral, they've gone viral because it's full of like negative comments and like my previous guest spoke about it being like a hate train where like they're commenting on your appearance and the this and the that, like from somebody who has amassed millions of views. Can we talk about like do you have posts where people are just being negative for no reason, and if you do, like how is it you overcome that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I don't really seem to get it as much now, but what I really try and safeguard against now is, because I'm putting so many kids in my videos, obviously we go through all the consent forms and everything, and that's fine, and they're all obviously happy to be on the videos, and their parents are, but I can't control what people on TikTok comment on those videos about those kids. That's the worst. If I have a video that blows up and there's negative comments about a child or something like that, I'm like, I freak out. So I'm like really diligent on it with, blocking words or, just constantly deleting comments and making sure that child does not get any pushback, from that video. Because that's not the point of what I'm trying to do. I'm creating wholesome fun. There's so much crap out there, right? Especially in the football space, so much negativity. I just want to be able to provide a little bit of fun and almost just hope. Like, do you know what I mean? The football space isn't all bad. So when I do that's my biggest worry now is the mental health of those kids, because they all watch the videos. They want to watch, where can I watch it? I give them a little keyring. It's something I do whenever we film with a kid. I give them a keyring, an EAB keyring, and it's got a QR code with all my links on. So they scan that and then they can go and watch their own video.
Yeah, oh sick.
So I know they're watching it, and I just have to be so careful.
Yeah, I love it. And like on that, like you're an ambassador for Panini.
Yeah.
What does an ambassadorship involve?
Yeah, honestly, it's the most fun thing. I can't praise Panini enough. I think they're the greatest. Marketing team are great, but also the freedom they allow us to just get on with what we do best. And what we do best is, creating organic videos that isn't a real focus on the product. It's a focus on the outcome. So the outcome is the reaction, but luckily the reaction features the product. Yeah. So it's not like buy Panini. It's so ingrained in what I do now.
Score a goal.
Absolutely.
Packs
Exactly.
Like
and the kids love it, man. They just absolutely love football cards. So I think that's the best thing is, they also give us great access to working with players like your Declans and what have you, but also the access they give, in other sports that I can't really reveal too much, but we're going to be doing some really cool stuff in the future. So it's just such a great partnership, and it's one that I've never had to force. I started creating content with Panini cards and stickers in my content, and then Hayden's, obviously sent it to Panini, and then they kind of caught onto it, and they were like, this is almost like a perfect marriage. It works really well. So that's the best partnership or ambassadorship. And then luckily we've managed to create some incredible stuff with them.
And just like final thing on that, like when you do have these partnerships, is it like you have like a year-long contract? Is it done by project? Is it like you must create 5 bits of content a month or a quarter? Like typically, how is it set up when you've got an agreement in place with someone like that?
It's all on a brand-by-brand basis. Panini, for example, we kind of started off a little bit more. We're going to create 6 pieces of content, and this is going to run for a duration of time during this launch. And then obviously, as we've kind of gone through with Panini, they've obviously trusted us massively now with just kind of getting on with it, and we kind of almost renew every kind of product launch now going forward. And I'm just so grateful for them to be able to give me the opportunity just to do what I do, and they just support it with products and obviously commercially. So it just works brilliantly. But yeah, brand by brand basis, definitely.
I love it. Ewan, like you've been doing this a long time, right? where do you see yourself in the next 5 and 10 years? I call this like the manifest corner.
Love
Like
it.
you said, your body isn't what it used to be. So what is it
It's
you
still
want to be
peak
doing?
condition, though, by the way.
Yeah.
To anyone who wants to book me for a freestyle show,
Sorry. Yeah.
Still peak condition.
But where do you see yourself in the next 5 and 10 years?
Yeah, great question. I never try and set like 5-10 year goals, but what I do is I evaluate each year, and I evaluate like I said earlier, I try and tweak something different every single year. So that's what I want to continue to keep doing. I love the consultancy with brands, and that's kind of what I'm doing a little bit more, I guess, with Panini as well, is kind of working as like an in-house kind of boots on the ground, almost consultant as well, because, you know, I'm the one chatting to the kids and seeing the reactions and, oh, you know, they really like this card design. So maybe, you know, we need to look to do. So I want to do more stuff like that. Obviously continue to grow EABSkills as a brand, you know, have subsidiaries off the back of that and different, you know, avenues. But yeah, I just kind of just taking it each year as it comes, and, you know, kind of just like really, if I'm having fun with it, I'm continuing. That's kind of where I'm at.
I love it. And then, you know, just to round off this section, like to somebody who's gotten to this point in the podcast, and is still considering doing content creation full time or creating content as a hobby, like what would your key piece of advice or main takeaway be?
That's it. Do it as a hobby. Don't do it as a business. If it's a hobby and it ends up being a business, perfect. If it doesn't, then it's not a business. So you've got to love what you're doing. And like I said to you earlier, think about, would you be doing this if you weren't trying to get paid for doing this? And if you are, then great, you're in the right thing. But it's like anything, you have to love what you're doing. So love it first, think about the secondaries later.
I love it. Ian, this has been such an insightful conversation. We do have a quick fire round.
Let's go.
Are you ready?
Absolutely.
Would you rather collab with Ronaldo or Messi?
I would collaborate with Messi only because he's never done a collaboration before. So that would be the first one.
Okay, love that. Perform for 100k live audience or 10 million audience online?
100k live.
Street football or stadium shows?
Stadium shows.
Invent a new trick or perfect a classic?
Invent a new trick.
Call it the EAB.
Absolutely.
Money or happiness?
I would go with money because that can provide more happiness for kids. I can give out more prizes and do bigger and better things.
I love it. Grass or concrete when freestyling?
Absolutely concrete.
I thought he was going to say absolutely grass there.
concrete.
Yeah. Favourite Wolves player of all time?
Ruben Neves.
Oh, easy. Yeah. World record. Have a world record or viral video?
World record. That's still something I'm chasing.
Oh, yeah?
It's coming.
Okay, I love that. And then, dream dinner guest.
Avicii.
Okay, R.I.P.
Yeah, Avicii. I think absolute pioneer, top guy. Yeah, Avicii.
I love it. You and we do have a closing tradition on this podcast.
Let's do it.
With everything that you've been through and knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your younger self? And would you still be doing the same thing?
Yeah, keep going. Think about the bigger picture, and just because someone else is doing better than you now doesn't mean they're going to be doing better than you in 10 years. So you have to play the long game. So yeah, long game over everything.
I love it. Ewan, where can people find you, bro?
EABSkills across every single platform. EABSkills with 2 S's. Some people say Z, but it's 2 S's.
All right, cool. I'm really looking forward to seeing this cross collaboration content that you've kind of like drip fed in there. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to continue following your journey. To the listener, I hope you've loved this conversation as much as I have. I feel like energized, and I know that's when it's the sign of a great podcast. You know what to do, guys. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, comment. Let us know who you want to hear from next. If you make it as a content creator, make sure to give us our flowers as well, guys, man. But no, I'm joking. This has been another episode of What My Best Friend Does. If you didn't know, now you know. Now go and take some immediate action.